talk about leadership styles. And can you flip to that next slide there? There you go. Great. Everybody see?
Yes.
Super duper. Okay. We're going to talk about leadership styles today. So we're going to look at 4 different styles. And those styles, everyone will use them at different times. Okay, so what we're going to look at is when is best to be what kind of style. Okay, because there's 4 styles and they're all very, very useful to a project. So the key is to know when, right? When do I want to use what style? So if we look at a project like a mountain, right? So who can read this quote for me? Somebody's got a good reading voice? Somebody want to volunteer to read that out loud? Okay, so today is your day. Your mountain is waiting. So get on your way.
Your mountain is waiting, so get on your way.
Exactly. Thank you. That's a good reading voice there. So a project is like a mountain, right? When you get started, you're very excited and you're trying to get to the peak of the project. And then once you get to the peak of the project, then everything goes faster as you finish the project. So as we think about it, like it looks like a mountain, right? So we're working on giving you some suggestions about how to talk about your project, right? So when Mr. Theodore connects you with different people, we're going to want to take a look at how you're going to talk about your project to those people. So let's take a look at different learning styles that have to relate with leadership styles. Okay, so in the leadership styles, we have a direct form of leadership, and that's a form of being very direct in terms of saying, okay, we have to do this by this date. This is how we're going to do it, and who's going to be on the team, and we're going to be doing these things because I say so. Okay, so that's a very direct form of leadership. Okay, and then there is coaching. Coaching is when you've realized, uh-oh, these people need help. They can't do what I just told them to do because they need some help. So in that form, instead of being a direct coach, now you're being a coach, right? And you're not going to be a direct leader, but you're a coach. Yes.
Direct coach is one style or 2 style?
2 styles. 2 styles.
2 style. Style right. Direct and style coach.
Exactly.
Yes.
2 styles, 2 different ones. But these 2 styles are very much you being in the front, okay? So direct coach, direct leadership means that you're directing it, like the director of an orchestra, okay? And usually that happens in the beginning of a project, because in the beginning of the project, you know what your vision is, you know what your mission is, you know what your goals are, you know what the outcomes are. You have a very clear idea of your project. So in the beginning of the project, you're usually in the direct modality of leadership. Then as you get going, you might become a coach because you realize that all the best intentions, but some of the people on your team need your help. Okay, so some of the people on the team might be able to do what you want them to do, but they need some direction, you know, and so they need coaching. Okay, so Those are two styles. Okay, so let's look at the next two styles, Theo. And I think that actually, if you, there you go. Okay, the next two styles are, back it up. They're at the bottom of that one page. We saw them. The next one. Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Let it disclose. Okay. It's on the bottom of so if you let that whole slide open, the next slide, just let it open. You'll see it. There you go. Stop it there. Good. So the next two are support. So supportive leadership and delegative leadership. Okay. So supportive leadership and delegative leadership. So the four styles that we're going to be talking about today are direct, coach, support, and delegate. Okay. So if we look at great leaders, and we'll be defining these in a second, well, that's what we'll go into in greater detail. Okay. So the next slide. So these are the four kinds we're going to look at: direct, coach, support, and delegate. So let's think about some of the qualities that we see in great leaders. Okay, so I wrote a couple here, but you can think of some other qualities, or take a look at this list and tell me if you agree with this list. Like, do you have some of these qualities, or people on your team have some of these qualities, right? So let's examine these to see that we understand what they all mean. So tact. Oh, that's a really good word. What is tact in French? I don't know if that's a cognate or not. Who can tell me? Tact. So doing something with great care, thinking about the other person, thinking about their feelings or their approaches. Tact. To be tactful. What is tact in French? Ah, look at that. It's a cognate. So you would understand that very well. Okay. So clear vision. We talked about this one a couple weeks ago, right? That they have a very clear vision about what they want to see in their project. So that's an attribute or a quality of a great leader. Great leaders also are very courageous, because they have to go where no one else has gone before, right? So especially in these innovative projects that you're working in. And this next one is very important too, and I know that's a cognate in French. Integrity. So that means that somebody is very congruent, okay? I think that there's a little message on WhatsApp about somebody waiting to be accepted into the meeting. Integrity is a very important issue, because it means that you're congruent. You're the way you are always, right? So it's not like if you have a false face, right? Good leaders, great leaders, don't have a false face. They're true in everything that they do and everything that they say. So there's a congruency or an alignment. So that means you have integrity. So you're going to abide by your word, right? Honesty. Great leaders are honest. Great leaders also have a clear focus, in addition to having a clear vision. Clear vision, clear focus. They can stay focused, eye on the prize, right? They can be decisive and they can be dependable. So great leaders can always be depended upon to keep their word. And they're decisive. When they say they're going to do something, they do it, right? And if they can't do it, they'll say, hey, I can't do it, right? They're enthusiastic, so enthusiasm and endurance. That's important, because you can be enthusiastic in the beginning of a project, right? In that beginning, as you're going up that mountaintop, but can you endure, can you sustain your enthusiasm even as the project peaks and as the project is finishing, okay? Endurance of enthusiasm, okay? And then last but not least is knowledgeable. Your great leaders are knowledgeable about what they're doing. I invite you to think about this in three ways. knowledgeable, skillful, and they have a good attitude. Okay, so knowledge, skills, and attitude. Think of that. Are the people on your team, do they have the knowledge that is necessary, or can they complement each other in knowledge? Right? Maybe some people have knowledge about something and the other people don't, but you complement each other. Okay? Are they skillful? Do they have the skills necessary to have a successful project? Again, can you complement each other in your team? But the leader then should have some skills. And the attitude, the behavior, your attitude toward your project, right? You have to have a good attitude, an endurance attitude. And notice that on the bottom, I have some interesting notes here. So take pride in the accomplishment of those and help them along the way. So not only are you celebrating when someone on your team accomplishes something, but you're proud of them. Okay, great leaders show pride in what other people in their team accomplish. They're not afraid to hire people that have better skills, better knowledge, better attitude than themselves, right? So a good leader can complement themselves by hiring better people around them, okay? So those are interesting. And they help other people achieve their goals. So a good leader will also help everybody on their team so everybody rises together. Yeah. So when I was working on a big project in Malaysia and many years ago, and they told me that there's a saying in Malaysia about crabs in a bucket. And they said that sometimes there's crabs in the bucket that will help the other crabs get out of the bucket, so they'll climb on top of each other until everybody leaves the bucket. And then there's some crabs that will pull the other crabs down as they see them trying to climb out of the bucket. And then there's other crabs who just give up completely and just sit on the bottom of the bucket. Okay. And they always used to tell this story of the crabs when talking about leadership, because there's leaders that will help other people out of a situation. There might be other leaders that drag people back into the problem. And then there's some leaders that just sit in the bottom of the situation and don't do anything. Okay. So it's a funny story about those crabs. Now, we sent this to you before the session today. I don't know if you all got a chance to read it or not. But if not, we can look at it together now. So what we wanted to know was, what kind of conclusions did you draw? How many people think that some of these things are good for a leader to have? Okay, so maybe here we could raise your hand. You've got a little, you have a little area here where you can raise your hand, right? In Zoom. And so maybe we could do a poll that way where you raise your hand, right? So how many people think that it's a good idea for leaders to be able to say no? Is that a good quality for a leader? That they have the ability to say no, flat out, no, we're not going to do that. Any hands for that one?
This is a very hard life skill, I can say.
Yeah.
No, it's not only about the leadership and work, it's also about
your personality, right? So you have to step into that. That'll probably be part of being a direct leader, right? Yeah. And that's about this next one. To be competent and to be proud of the competency that you have of yourself and of others. So this has to do with your self-confidence as a leader, right? So you're competent and you're also proud of your competence. and of that of other people on the team. How many people think that's a good idea? You can raise your little hand in Zoom.
Express my vision to others.
Yeah, right. You have to be able to explain your vision to other people. So you have to have a certain amount of competence to do that, right? Yeah. And express your
yes.
vision to others. That's important, right? We agree on that one. Yeah. And treated as capable human beings. So a good leader treats everybody in their team as very capable, right? They're not going to treat them like a dictator or something, right? Those military dictators in the 80s. All right. Make mistakes and take responsibility for them. So a great leader can make a mistake and they take responsibility and say, I messed up on that. Sorry. I'll do it better.
Help others to develop our own business.
Right. They help others to develop themselves and develop their own business. Good. What else? Who else sees one that they agree with?
And also share a vision.
Yeah, share their vision. Good. Any other ones that we agree with? They know how to structure their time and their priorities. That's important as a leader, right? You have to be able to manage your own time and manage the time of the people on your team, but manage it based on priorities, all right? What's important to spend time on and what's not important to spend time on, okay?
And what means change situations?
Change situations. So that means that if you think something is not working for the success of the project, you are very capable and happy to change it. You know what I mean? That you're not going to be stuck and stubborn and go, la, 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 I'm not going to change it. But if something's not working, you're willing to make an adjustment, willing to be agile, adaptable, okay?
Yes.
Any other ones that we like? Or ones that say,
not assume.
like anyone that
not assume. I like this.
What's that?
Ask and not assume.
There you go.
Assume.
So you're asking the question and you're not assuming that the person has the answer, okay? So in English, we actually have a cognate like this where we say to someone, when we're talking to them about assumptions or something you want to ask, you'll say, I'm assuming, so that you announce to the person it's something that you're assuming, or you announce to the person, I want to ask you. Okay, so that's a very useful expression in American English that we say, I'm assuming, and then you say what you assume, okay? Or you say, I'm asking, could you help me with this? So you announce to the people whether or not you're making an assumption or you're asking them a question. That's a good one for you to remember when you're explaining your project. So you could say, I'm assuming that you're selling your products online, but I'm going to ask you, do you have a platform? You see, so that right away tells the listener, well, this person doesn't know. They're just asking me a question or they're making an assumption. Okay, that's an important way of asking that question. Anything else with that one? All right, let's go on to the next slide. Now we're going to start looking at the 4 types of leadership very specifically. Okay, so the first type is a direct leader. And again, remember what I said. Everyone will use all 4 of these at different moments in a project. The key is to know when to assume which form of leadership. Okay, so that's the trick here. So that's the golden nugget of information that I'm imparting to you, is that you're always going to have all 4 types, but at different moments of the project. Okay, so direct leadership. You're delegating a task and you take the lead on projects, and you stay involved, right? So you're always in there with your hands in there because you want to inspire the team and you want to show them that you are capable as a leader of having a hands-on approach to help them and to model what is expected. You understand? So the key here is in the beginning of a project, because you have a very clear vision and mission of what your project should be, chances are you will be a direct leadership position. When you are delegating tasks and you're involved and you're motivating people and you're demonstrating how you want something done, right? And you're modeling, this is how we're going to do it, right? So that they can see your expectations, your quality expectations. Have any of you felt or been in this position before? And give us an example of what was going on in your project where you were a direct leader. Anybody think of an example? And chances are, because you're beginning in your project, you've done a lot of direct leadership, okay? So supportive leadership is another facet or another phase of leadership. In this kind of leadership, you're going to use a tool or a resource that you're going to develop to give the people on your team that they can do alone, that they can do unsupervised, they can do it independently. And that tool or resource is going to help them, is going to support them, is going to build their trust, is going to get them excited because they're going to succeed when they're using the tool, and it's going to help the team as a whole to overcome some challenges that they may encounter, right? So this supportive tool or resource is there to support, encourage the team, okay? So what you're going to have to do here is then create a tool or give them a resource or give them a tool, like we've been getting you ready to give you a tool called the Change Maker Playbook, and that's coming up this week. But for the past few modules, we've been giving you small pieces that will be present in the playbook itself. So we're entering into this phase of supportive leadership. So we're giving you a resource, a tool that will help you work independently, but the tool is so powerful that you will feel successful working with the tool, and ultimately you will make a presentation of your insights and your conclusions at the end of May, right? So the supportive form of leadership is intended to encourage teamwork, encourage you to pay attention to the relationships within the team. And it also allows you to see that the team can show you, can demonstrate for you their commitment to the project and their commitment to the team. Okay, so when you enter into this mode of supportive leader, you're giving them something that's going to help them with what you want them to do. You're giving them something that will help them succeed. And it not only supports the individuals in your team, but it supports the team totally, the team completely, the whole team. So it shows you supporting the individual. It shows you giving them resources to support them. And it shows them supporting themselves and supporting each other. Okay? So in supportive leadership, you're giving them the resources necessary to succeed. That could be a website link. It could be a book, a little manual, like what we're going to give you is an empty journal for you to fill in, but has key points to think about. Okay, so supportive leadership is meant as a 360-degree form of successful support. Okay, so you have direct leadership and supportive leadership. Supportive leadership will come in when you realize they need some help. Now,
1 minute, Levians, 1 minute.
Yes, go ahead.
If I understand, so leadership, supportive, give many the responsibility of member of team.
Right, you're going to be giving them something to help them achieve their responsibility. So to give them the responsibilities is the delegative leadership. Okay. So Theo, if you can jump 2 slides so we can answer that question by showing the slide of the delegative, the next slide, and then we'll come back to Coach. This one. So this one is when you're giving the team members many responsibilities and assignments and projects that they have to accomplish. Okay. That's when you're delegated. So that's a delegative leader. Okay. And as you know, you will be in this modality at some point, right? In the beginning of the project, you're directing, but then you're delegating later on, right? The supportive leader is you're giving them the tools or the resources so that they will be able to work independently. So remember those 3 things we were talking about? Knowledge, skill, attitude. So what is their knowledge? What are their skills? And what is their attitude, right? Or their behavior in their project? You will observe that as a direct leader, at which point you think, oh, this person needs help with this. The whole team needs help with that. And this person needs no direction. Okay, so you're going to see where the team bubbles up.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
I understand the difference of
exactly.
Leadership.
Okay, so remember
of leadership type.
Yes, and remember we even talked about this on the first module. We said about education. Remember, so where education comes in leadership is in supportive leadership, and in this next slide, Theo, which is a coach.
Okay.
So when a leader becomes a coach, right? Because as a direct leader, you'll notice things going on with your team as you're choosing your team and as the team is starting to work. Supportive leadership means you can give them something that they can work on independently. Okay, a website, an article to read, a kit, a piece of paper that has instructions, something that they can read alone, or they can study it alone, or they can work on it together as a team. They don't need another human being. All they need is a thing, right? A tool or a resource. However, very important, there are some aspects of knowledge, skills, or attitude that require you to be a coach, that require a human touch. Okay, so in that supportive leadership role, you're giving them resources and tools, and you'll start to see now, well, we'll remind you to see that we're going to enter into this modality ourselves in the next 3 weeks. You're going to see a lot of things on WhatsApp about leadership coach.
With the leadership coach, the job is a preparation.
Yes.
The job is a preparation because in the action, your member take your responsibility.
Right, and they can probably do it, but they need a little bit of help. Okay. So if they need a little bit of help, you need to have your coach hat on. And now as a leader, you're a coach. You recognize the strength and the weakness. Okay. You recognize the motivations of each person on your team. Okay. And based on that, you're going to decide how to coach them. Or if they need coaching, maybe they don't need coaching. Maybe all they need is supportive leadership, which means you give them a resource. Or maybe they just are ready to go into delegative mode where they start working on a piece of the project with themselves or with a team. Okay.
I think in a specific moment, everybody needs to be coached a little bit. Just
exactly. Because you're working on an innovative project, right? Remember in module 2, we said these were innovations. So if it was not an innovation, yeah, then everybody knows what they're doing. There's no need for this. But these projects that you're working on are innovative projects, philosophically, in terms of people, in terms of process, in terms of product or service. So at any given moment, you'll need to motivate somebody or coach them on something. Okay? So far we've got the direct leader, the supportive leader, and the coach leader. And then we actually jumped a little bit, right? And we have the delegative leader. Also, coaching might refer to, as you look at that last sentence, you might start to prepare somebody for a future role, right? So maybe you see somebody in there in your team and you're like, ooh, that person would be great to be a leader themselves later on, but I got to coach them and maybe even mentor them. And that's a whole separate conversation we'll talk about on Wednesday. I might have to coach them and I might have to mentor them so that they can also be a leader in their own right. So future roles, you might keep your antennas open for if you see somebody like that on your team. Okay. So then the next slide refers to the delegative leader. Next one there, and we kind of jumped ahead and discussed that one, but we'll look at that one more time.
A coach accompanied.
Yes, they are. Coach is a good companion. Yeah.
Yes, accompanied everybody to realize their project.
Yeah, a coach is very much of like for getting everybody motivated. Yeah. To realize a successful project. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can see it there. Motivate people to achieve success. So it's not just an empty, because sometimes you see that too, that people have this kind of empty coaching, which is really just rah, 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 but for what? Right. So the key is that there's a direction that you're moving, right? Yes. There's a focus that you're moving. That's the direct leader, the supportive leader, the coach, and now the delegative one. So Theo, go to the next slide of the delegative one. Right, so this one is for you to empower your team to autonomy. Okay, that's an important word. And I know that's a cognate in French, right? In the direct leadership, you're saying, look at me model for you what you should be doing. Okay, so you're kind of like preparing them to be alone, you know, to be able to do everything by themselves. Okay, but when you get to this delegative, now you're assigning things, right? You're assigning parts of the project. You're giving people an assignment to do, an action to do, a timeline to accomplish that action, right? Remember 2 modules ago, we did the A through Z, all those action verbs for your goals and your outcomes. See, this comes in very handy now, because now you're going to assign people, give them an assignment. I want you 2 guys to do this together. I want you to do that by yourself. And 3 of you are going to work on this, and 4 of you are going to work on that. Okay, you're delegating things because you're not going to do them yourself. Other people are going to do them. Okay, they get to make all the decisions and choices for which they also must take responsibility. Okay, so the team gives them free rein to work. Okay, Now, here's the trick. That sounds good, right? 4 different ways of being a leader: a direct leader, a supportive leader, a coach, and delegated. But here's the catch. If you're going to be working with young people, which Theo told me you're going to be working with a lot of young leaders, young people, chances are that these young people are from the millennial generation. What does that mean? That they were born between 1982 and the year 2004. Millennials are very different than X's or Y's. So if you were born before that, you're probably generation Y. If you were born before that, you're probably generation X. If you were like me, an old lady over here, I'm a baby boomer. Okay. So millennial generation, they like to change their jobs quickly. And they prefer to work with leaders that are coaches. Okay? So that's a hint. If you're going to be working with youthful people on your project, even though you're going to be a direct leader, you're going to be supportive, you're going to be a coach, and you're going to be delegative, you're going to want to do that looking like a coach, because they will respond to that better. What does that mean? They want you to be very caring to them. They want you to give them a lot of feedback. They want you to give them a lot of encouragement. Well done, good. Oh, you're on the right track. Go for it. They want you to give them a lot of support, right? And they want to feel like if they're always informed and that they are involved in decision making, even if they're not. Okay. And they're very much in tune with fairness. They want you as a leader to be fair. Okay. If they even get a woof that you're not fair, they'll probably quit. Okay. So millennial generation, when you're working with youthful people, you want to keep this in mind, that they respond better to someone in the coach-like modality. Now, that doesn't take away that you're going to have to do direct leadership and supportive leadership and delegative leadership. All that means is that you're going to do a little role playing. And when you're delegating, you're going to want to do it as if you were a coach. Okay, so you're going to want to say, okay, I really think this is going to be great for everybody. And I'm so excited about how you work. And that's what you're going to do. Okay, so as a coach. So positive outcomes then for effective leaders. So for yourself, right? So the other 4 is how you're going to be with them. This is for how you're going to be with yourself, right? Because leadership can take a toll, right? So you want to be realistic with yourself regarding how much you can do in a given period and with the particular resources that you have. So notice up to now, I haven't talked about time. This is the first time I've talked about time. I said before, what are the actions you're going to do? And even when you were talking about time, we were asking you 1 year, 3 years, 5 years. Okay, now I'm talking about a given period of time for a task. So you as a leader, if you know that you have a deadline coming up, I have to fill out this proposal by this date, then you're going to have to manage yourself, put it in a calendar or write it down in a notebook or do a little bit of it every week, whatever it is that your style is, so that you can accomplish these things. You have to be realistic, and you have to be realistic in regards to how much you can accomplish in a given period of time and with the given resources. Okay. And then realize that not all tasks are equally important and you need to set priorities. Okay, very important for any leader that not of the same importance. Yes.
Yeah, I was saying that priorities are very important.
And you can divide them daily,
where to put your
and monthly. Okay, so that's a good way to divide it up: daily, weekly, and monthly. You know, an A priority, a B priority, a C priority. And then this is going to help you. What we just discussed it. It will help you become a delegated leader, right? So if you find out that in your team there's someone capable of doing some things to help you, you can right away delegate. Okay. Or maybe you can find a resource so that somebody could do it, right? So that you could be supportive and give everybody a template and then say, okay, here's the template. Now I can delegate for you to go do it and help me. You see? So there's lots of ways that you can still look good as a leader, right? Save face, right? By being realistic about what you're doing and within a given period of time, okay? So, you know, this is where 1 + 1 = 3. If you have a strong team, that team can have a quantum effect on what you're doing, okay? So any questions about that? Because this is a pivotal one for everyone as a leader. Just have to let it go a little bit more. There you go. Okay, so what fits your style? So take a look at these and think about which one of these fits your style, right? Maybe you could just read them and then you could think about which one of these fits your style. So approaching an overwhelming responsibility with a positive attitude, you know, and break it into larger tasks and into smaller tasks and actionable tasks. Okay. So you don't get overwhelmed, right? You're not going to have an anxiety attack or a panic attack. You're just going to take it and break it down into smaller components, right? Finding connections or links within the tasks to be done, right? That link the benefits of the task and to yield a successful result, right? Or make decisions quickly, you know, to save energy for the important decisions. So not everything has to be a discussion, right? Remember that direct leader. There's sometimes when you just have to go very directly about it and say, this is what we're going to do, because you are protecting the vision or the mission of the project. There's nothing worse than when you start with a project and you got a team, and then before you know it, the project amorphs, to use a chemistry word, it amorphs into something completely different. And you're like, ah, that's not what we were doing, right? Especially careful when it's like one of these big proposals that somebody is funding you for. They funded you to do something specific. You can't have that thing, you know, crystallize or morph into something else, because they'll take the funding away from you. Okay. You might be able to do that more easily as an individual entrepreneur, but when you're working in these kind of proposals, you have to stick to what you said you were going to do. Am I right, Theo?
Absolutely, yes.
Right, so that's an important one.
You need to
right?
keep the agreements clear, and then if you have to change them, you need to. This you have to be very clear how and when and.
Well, and look at what we're saying here, that you don't have to change the bigger picture. What you have to change is the tasks or the actions. Yes. You see? So, you know, not all is lost in the war, right? You know, there's that saying in English that we say that you lost the battle, but you won the war, right? Exactly. So that means that you may have to change your task so that you can accomplish the bigger goal of the project. Change those actions. Remember, A through Z, all those verbs. And then what are some of the other ones we have here? Shape the environment to establish a conductive place for task involvement and completion, right? So changing the environment. Maybe they need a place they can go. It's the same thing as with online learning, right? When we first started with the pandemic a year ago, everyone was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Right? And the first thing that people had to do was find a place in their home where they could turn on the computer and they could do their work and they can have their online sessions, right? Yeah. So that it's very simple. It seems simple, but it's important to set an environment, a space, okay? And Theo knows me well now that he's been to my live trainings as well as online. And in my live training, right, Theo, I spend days creating the environment in which people are going to come to learn. And even here, as you can see in the background, I also set up an environment in which I can come to learn, okay? Now, in the beginning of the pandemic, you may have seen my cat's tail, right? Because my cat was walking in front of the camera, right? Or you may hear children screaming in the background or crying, or somebody in the restaurant giving you, you know, your rice and beans and fish because you were just setting up in the restaurant, wherever you had Wi-Fi, right? There were a lot of people just setting up wherever they could get the bandwidth. Yeah. Some of my students in Nepal did that. One of them once was in the restaurant outside, and all of a sudden the waiter brought the fish and the rice. And I was like, oh, thank you, Manita, for bringing lunch, right? But she said, this is the only place I had Wi-Fi. I had to do it here. Okay, so setting up the environment is important, whether or not it's a live environment or it's in your home or in your office. Okay, don't underestimate that. So what fits your style? You have to think about it. What fits your leadership style? And you own it. Okay, so you're stepping into your leadership role. Just like if somebody made a circle on the floor and you step into that circle, now I'm a leader, right? So just like we were saying before with your persona names, and those monologues are going to come up in those presentations of the 19th and the 26th. You're saying your presentation from that standpoint. So remember to choose who you're going to be. We heard a presentation from Joan of Arc the other day. So I bet you're curious about that. You'll want to look at the videotape of that. Miss Hani was Joan of Arc. Okay. So let's go to the next slide. So think about what fits your leadership style. So now think about this. Think about it with a scenario, a situation. Okay. So what offers you the opportunity to show that you're a leader? So if you back it up a little bit, there you go. So think about an opportunity or an example inside of your project. And then think about what would the response be? Does that particular aspect of your project require that you be direct, that you be supportive, that you be a coach, or that you delegate? Okay, so think about these. You might make a T-chart later on, right? And put down all the process and the things that you're doing in your project. And then next to it, decide, do I need to be direct? Do I need to be supportive? Do I need to be a coach, or do I need to be delegated? And then visualize what the response would be, okay? And the feelings that the people would have in your team. And if you're satisfied, then that is the way that you should lead for that task. See? So you're going to visualize the different tasks in your project. Okay, I need to go buy the seeds of rice that we're going to be planting for my rice fields. So do I need to be supportive, like give somebody a handout that says, this kind of seed has this yield, these are better, these are cheaper, these are more expensive. Maybe there's something like that you need to make a handout that analyzes the different kinds of rice seed that you can buy for your project. In which case, then what? That means you would be supportive. You would create a sheet, and then your team can help you decide what is the best kind of rice seed. Or maybe you don't want to waste any time with that. You just decide you buy the rice seed, period. And then you start coaching and delegating once the seeds are there. People have to go do something with the land. They have to get the water. They have to plant them. They have to take care of them and so on. Okay. So run it down. Think, these are the things I have to do in the project. What kind of a leadership role do I have to take for each given assignment, right? And then think it through. Was that the correct choice? Did that yield a positive, successful result in a given amount of time? If you chose, for example, delegated, but they don't know how to do it, that's going to waste time. Then that means you're going to have to back up and be a coach, and maybe back up again and be supportive. But maybe that's okay. Maybe that's part of the project. So you have to decide, what are the tasks? What kind of leader are you going to be for that task? And then evaluate, what is the response? And how do you feel? Is it a good choice, or do I need to change? Okay, do this on paper. Okay. Any questions about that one? Because that'll be useful. Okay, so as you see here, I'm giving you an example, right? So you would take a look at it and you would say, what do you want to explore? What options in respect to my leadership style or choices? A situation. So think of 2 situations in your project, okay? And then, do you need to change something about that situation? Does the situation require a problem that has to be solved? If so, what kind of leadership style is best suited to that issue? Okay. So in the previous slide, we were just talking about tasks, actions. In this slide, we're talking about tiny problems that bubble up. Inevitable in any project. There's always little problems, right? Your suitcase didn't arrive on time. That happens to me all the time when I would go in person to do training.
Anything can happen.
Anything can happen. Ugh, I mean, stuff that you can't even imagine. You're like, what? That's new, right? So then how do you change it? How do you fix it? And then think about what's the best choice in leadership style. What I usually do is I put all 4 of them down and then I tick them off. I think about them in my head, like I rehearse it. Oh, does direct leadership work better for that one? Nah. How's about supportive? No. Coach? Yeah, maybe. Delegated. Okay, maybe I need to be delegative and coach them, in which case I need to coach first and then delegate, right? Or maybe the situation is like, I'm just going to direct leadership here because I have to uphold the vision and the mission of the project, right? Somebody told us an example about that yesterday, right? So she told us how her project was going off on, left field. And so to bring it back, she just had to be in the role of a direct leader. And then after she brought it back to center, then she could start delegating again and coaching people and being the supportive leader, okay? So 2 ways of looking at this and practicing in your head. One is looking at all the tasks that you have to do and then deciding what's the best form of leadership and then running a scenario. Did it work? Didn't it work? If it didn't work, change the kind of leader. The other one is looking at some sticky, yucky situations that might occur and how you would change it, okay? And then think about which is your best way of tackling that as a leader. Okay. So there are two ways of looking at these 4 options. Your everyday tasks and when you have a situation. Mm-hmm.
I think that in situation it's very hard sometimes to choose the right road that you have to take, and most of the time you're taking it by just how to spontaneously,
right. Spontaneously. Yeah, so it might be that based on what the people are saying, it leads you down a particular path.
I think it's
Spontaneously.
very important to understand people and to be more empathetic.
Empathetic, yeah.
No, empathetic. Empathy.
Empathy, yeah. Empathetic, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Empathy, right? And like yesterday, the young lady told us yesterday, she was like, no, that's not what this project was about, right? So she just had to put it back on track, and then she could become compassionate and delegative and so on. But if for a moment there, because it would throw her project off, she had to take the reins of the horse, pull it back, and go into that direct mode. Okay. Mm. So there's different ways. I think that what I like about the message today, so I love this module, is that a lot of times people think it's just about being one kind of a leader. Okay. You don't realize that you have choices depending on what's happening. So that's what I like about this, is that it makes you flexible, adaptable, and able to be spontaneous if you know the 4 kinds.
To understand the situation, to know the people and to react according to some values and
to know then what you can do, right? Because that's what these 4 types of leadership are about, is they're about presenting a solution. So they're about being able to say,
finding the best way of dealing with them.
Exactly. Not just with the people involved, but also the situation. And also, let's face it, your project is a person. Your project takes a life onto itself. So your project is a person.
Somehow it is,
Yeah, exactly. So,
so that's it's growing up, you carrying.
Exactly.
Nursing.
Yeah, it's just like a baby, right? Now, sometimes that life cycle may just be one day if you have a 1-day workshop, for example, or it'd be 5 days if it's a 5-day workshop. Or maybe it could be 5 years if you have a 5-year contract. Okay. Or like in my case, a 42-year-old company. That's a grown man or grown woman, the company, right? That still behaves like a baby or a teenager.
Because it depends on the employees somehow.
Yeah. Interesting, right?
Very interesting point of view, actually, for me. It's like...
okay. All right, let's take a look at that next one. Okay. And this one is, what is your motto, right? What's your motto? So words that you live by are words that you hope to live by. And this is for you, right? This is for you. This is what motivates you. So think about, what is your motto, right? And that's what motivates you. So do you have a saying or something that you tell yourself, that helps to motivate you to push on? A word that you do, or is there a picture? Okay.
Your devise. I think in French is devise.
Okay, is that what the word for motto?
Yes.
So that's a different word. It's not a cognate, right? Your slogan. A slogan sometimes is more playful. A motto is more about words that you live by or words that you hope to live by. Okay. So words that you live by. You can think about that and include that in your presentation. I think that would be great for you to include in your presentation on the 19th and the 26th.
My slogan is by quality.
Yes, quality. So that's what keeps you going. Good. And that's what motivates you, right? And hopefully while you share that with others, it will motivate them. So it'll be contagious.
Yes.
Yeah, it'll move them toward you and your project. Like-minded people, right? People that have the same mindset.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because can you imagine if you had someone on your team that doesn't believe in quality? They would need a lot of coaching and they would need a lot of supportive resources and tools. And even then, who knows if you're going to get them there, right? So you want to make sure that the people in your team might resonate, right? They might resonate with your model. Mm-hmm. Anybody else know about their motto? Well, something to think about, to include in your presentations. Let's see that next one, Theo. Today, we've had a lot of food for thought. Organizational architecture. Okay, so we're driving toward this, right? We just said this when you said that your motto was quality, right? We said, okay, it motivates you. It's going to help you choose the people on your team. It'll dictate how people move. It becomes the architecture of your organization, like the culture of your organization. It's the domain of action. How are the actions going to be completed in your team, in your organization? Your project will be an organization, a little group of people working together for a common goal, right? Guiding ideas. So it's an organizational purpose. So as innovation is the infrastructure that will hold up the architecture of your organization, right? So we said there are 4 things for innovation, right? Philosophy, people, how you deal with the people, the process, how you do your work, and then what is the product or the service that you're providing. So that's the infrastructure, right? Those are all the wooden beams and the metal beams that hold it together.
Of the satisfaction of client is getting it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Satisfaction of client.
Exactly. Clear views to satisfaction. And then architecture is how you're going to put that all together, right? Yeah. So that has to do then with your theories, your methods, your tools. That all becomes part of the organizational architecture. Okay. So sometimes in an organizational architecture, maybe there's a tool that everybody knows about in your organization, that everybody knows how to use. Or maybe there's a method, like with quality, everybody should know a little bit of something about Deming, right? And total quality management, because he's the guru of quality. Okay. Farming rice, I would find out who are the best people to grow rice presently on the planet. Who are they? Are they Vietnamese? Are they Chinese? Are they Japanese? How is the best method to grow rice? And then you're going to improve on that, right? Because you're an innovative way of growing rice for 90% of the people that live in Senegal. So organizational architecture is about action, right? The guiding ideas of your project. the purpose of your project, tied to the motto, right? Just like our friend said, quality. And then that leads to focus and satisfaction, okay? Innovation as the infrastructure. What's holding up your project? Yeah? What are the theories guiding your project? Is it about better farming, using less water? Maybe you're building a school where, you know, that's ergonomically green. Maybe you're going to have an office that is always online on the internet. There's never going to be a real building, you know, and that happened because you started your project during the pandemic. Okay, so think about that. Yeah. Buckminster Fuller, who was a very famous innovator, American innovator, he used to say, if you want to teach people a new way of thinking, don't bother trying to teach them. Instead, give them a tool. The use of the tool will lead them to new ways of thinking. So he was very much a man of action, right? So if you want them to do something, give them a tool so that they can start doing it. You know, so maybe there's a form or a format or a way of doing things, a tool. So we're going to be sending you a tool this week. We've been talking a lot about that tool as the previous weeks, the Change Maker Playbook. And that's a tool that we have made for you. We've been preparing you to use it independently. And then you're going to show us or share with us what you did with the tool during your presentations. So we're doing exactly what we're suggesting you should do. Think of a tool that you could give your people or that you can share that shows that your project is innovative. How are you going to grow rice in a new and different way? How are you going to sell vegetables online in a new and different way? How are you going to help the ladies create these little huts to sell their vegetables and produce in the street in a new and different way? How are they going to make that little hut to protect them from the sun and the rain? Okay. How are you going to deliver interesting classes, IT classes, on coding and on information technology at the college or university? How is your class going to be different than any other class around?
Also the quality class.
The quality class. How are you going to teach that quality class so that it's very different than other quality classes? Okay. And then maybe that quality class, you can invent a tool or a resource that the students can use so that when they use it, bang, they're doing quality themselves. They can see it in their own work. Okay. So think of these tools or resources that distinguish you from someone else. So in our work at ICAL, we're very good at designing programs, designing curriculum, designing instruction, and we have a tool. It's called the 11-step model. And anyone who studies with us learns how to use that tool. Okay, and the tool is very easy to use, even though it is a very robust and strong tool. So you could use it easily, and you could also use it in a very elegant and complex way. So the tool becomes adaptable. Okay, and any student of mine, even when I'm long gone, you'll know that that person was my student because they used the 11-step model. So it's something very representative of our company. Okay. So what distinguishes you from other people? There might be other classes about quality in other colleges and universities, but how is your class on quality going to be different? How is it going to rise to the top? How is it going to look and feel different? How are there going to be so many people that want to take your class that there's a waiting list for people to sign up for your class? Okay. What's the maximum number of students you could have in your class? And you want to surpass that, okay? So an architecture for your organization and a field, a leadership field. Sometimes people call this charisma, right? It's a field, an energy field, a way of being. Develop a field that encourages learning, okay? So if you back that up, encourages learning as a primary task of leadership. The way a leader can influence and inspire others. So on module 1, we said to you, what part of your project has to do with education? And some of you, I'm sure, thought, what? My project doesn't have anything to do with education. Aha. And now we get to it, right? That it's a way of leadership, memorable, sustainable leadership, influencing and inspiring others. So what kind of fields are there? Okay, there's gravitational fields, right? Like on planet Earth. I mean, you let drop it, it's going to fall. Okay, so a gravitational field. There's an electromagnetic field. There's a quantum field. What kind of a leadership field are you going to create with your project? Now, this leadership field has to do with inspiring and influencing others to do better. Because after all, that's what an innovative project is about. Passing it on, going forward. Okay, so the next generation does it better. The next group, those youth workers can have a chance at doing something better. The students in your quality management class will have a chance to live and breathe quality. Okay, not just as a concept, but as a living and breathing thing in everything they do. So what kind of a leadership field are you going to establish? Great leaders are just magnetic, right? There's a magnetism to them, a charisma, something that draws people to those great leaders. Even if the great leader is shy. So even if their personality is demure and shy, they can still have that gravitational pull. Why do people go to your class, sign up for your class and not somebody else's? Why are people going to want to join your group and your project? So when you get introduced to your European counterparts, how magnetic are you going to be that together you're going to be able to do great things together? Okay, so think about it. What kind of a leader are you? What kind of a field? Okay, so charisma, field of influence, stewardship. Stewardship. That's a very interesting word. Now, I believe that yesterday we found out that that was a cognate, didn't we? In French, stewardship. Accountable for the well-being of a large organization by operating in service versus control. Accountability without control or compliance. Stewardship. The term is used a lot in the shipping industry. You're a steward of a ship. Pretty much when that thing goes on, the automatic pilot, that ship can pretty much go. A stewardship. What kind of leadership do you have? Is it stewardship? Is it charisma? Is it a field of influence? Or are you completely reinventing how relationships occur? Very well might be. Great leaders do. They reinvent how relationships occur. Okay. Our teacher, Dr. Lozanoff and Dr. Gatava, was a very charismatic personality, but he also had a great stewardship. So he trained many trainers all over the world that continued his work even after he was gone. So it was a way of reinventing relationships. So think about that. People who have led you and people you will lead. Okay? A field of influence and reinventing relationships. So these are all things that you want to think about as you move forward toward your presentations and towards using your change management playbooks. Okay, so a lot of thinking to be done, right? Because at the end of today, you're going to think about those 4 styles, when to use which one. You're going to see if they're helpful when a problem occurs. You're going to see when to use them, when not to use them. What is the architecture of your organizational project? You're going to look at what is your type of style or energetic field as a leader? And are you influencing people through your charisma, through your stewardship, how you are going to achieve these effective outcomes, okay, for your project. So starting this week, you're going to want to keep your antennas open for your WhatsApp, because you're going to get a lot of things there, and some things are going to come in an email. And then if you have any questions, please let us know, and then we're happy to hold some office hours to help you with your questions and clarify further. And then start thinking about, as you're preparing all these pieces, that ultimately there'll be presentation time on the 19th and the 26th. And actually on the 12th, a lot of you have to do some short presentations about what matters, right? So that was the presentation that I sent you on your WhatsApp to think about, right? It was sent in your WhatsApp, and it was just a short one. It's maybe about 1-2 minutes. And it's about how you word your message, how you word your message of your project. What is the message of your project? Okay. And that one we had sent on WhatsApp on April 30th. Joan of Arc did accomplish hers, and she even said, I finished mine. So now we're going to hear from everybody else. And there's 4 little questions to that. And it was in your WhatsApp message on April 30th. So you can scroll up to WhatsApp and open the screen and see the 4 things. And it's basically just telling us what is the message of your project. Okay. And then on the 19th and the 26th, presentations. So this week, you're going to start working with the tool, with the resource of the Change Maker Playbook. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Comments or questions?
You want to say something? Yes, you can comment or.
Oh my God, I'm going overtime. I always go overtime with my watch. So sorry. Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Theodore.
Yes.
You can share the last presentation of last course.
Yeah,
Yes.
is it inside the YouTube thing, Mr. Theodore?
It's gonna be, everything is gonna be in the YouTube channel. That in WhatsApp.
Yes.
Everything will be there.
Have you been able to get into that? That's really good. You can listen to them over and over again, and you can put this.
And we can send the presentation from today. We're gonna send it over email, post module.
Oh, okay. Oh, the post module, right? To review the module. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And remember to look at the pre-module, which was inside your invitation. Did you see that? Like if you scroll on the bottom of the email, there was an attachment. So try that out. That was from the email that Mr. Theodore sent on Friday, I think. Yeah?
Yes, for the preparation of the.
Yes.
Okay. Have a good evening.
Okay.
Bye for now.
Good evening.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.